My mom and stepdad asked me to have sex with the stepdad. My mom had me at 18 right out of high school. Long story short, my dad died at 19 while he was away at uni. Then my mom remarried at 21 and had my sisters. My stepdad, we'll call him Scott, was the only father I've known. He's been a great father, nothing out of the ordinary. Absolutely perfect parenting until I turned about 19. I remember Scott was becoming a little touchier than normal and a little too personal. He would offer me wine. I declined, and would ask me about my sex life after one too many glasses. I brushed it off because I thought maybe he was being a nosy father and just wanted to make sure his daughter wasn't having sex. Then, this kind of stuff continued, to the point where my stepdad tried to kiss me last year. I told my mom and she just laughed and told me that's how he gets after too many drinks. I knew then I had to make plans to leave, so I started saving up. After that incident, things died down a bit until my mom got pregnant at 39. It's a higher risk pregnancy, so she's on a lot of bed rest and taking extra care of herself per her doctor. A couple weeks ago, my mom and Scott sat me down and told me her doctor said she should avoid sex during her pregnancy due to various health reasons I won't get into. They asked me if I could have sex with Scott just until she was able to have sex again. Of course I said no. I was livid. I was crying. She told me she'd be okay with it, and she'd be in the room as well. I told her that was even worse. Like, what are they thinking? I have enough money now for an apartment. I got approved. I'm signing my lease next week. My parents are ignoring me, and the whole house is full of tension. My younger sisters don't understand what's going on, and my mom told me not to say anything. But my sisters are smart. They know something is really up, and won't stop asking me about it, especially the oldest. She came to me crying today and told me I better tell her what's going on right now. I didn't say anything. So any advice? What do I tell her? What do I say to the younger ones? How do I tell a 16-year-old about this without being inappropriate or bashing my parents? Response to OP. Bashing. Your parents would be unfairly putting them down for something benign. What they've done is wrong and sick on so many levels. Forget about not wanting to be inappropriate because it's more important to prevent you and them from dealing with more abuse. It is highly likely that your other sisters will be subjected to this if they have not already, and they are younger and more easily victimized. You could speak to your teen sisters privately and ask them if they have had any uncomfortable experiences with your stepdad, like him talking too much about sex or making advances, and make it clear that you are a safe person to confide in. I would also reach out to a trusted family member or someone you can ask for help from. OP. Last year, when he tried to kiss me, CPS interviewed all the girls, and the girls were very confused because their dad has never said or done anything to them inappropriately. My aunt, who is a child therapist and called CPS to begin with, talked to each girl and said there were no signs of foul play, which upset her because she really hates Scott, but made her happy because he's done nothing to them. CPS said it was like a roommate complaining about sexual assault since I'm not his biological daughter. My aunt has been fighting to make my mom leave for years, but since Scott is not abusive to her or the girls, and makes a lot of money, she won't leave. But my aunt has actually mentioned he's been manipulating her with kindnesses all these years, so she would be okay with him having sex with me when I became an adult, and it worked. My aunt and I don't think he's going to hurt the other girls, but you never know. We most likely will call child services again. OP. My aunt and I are probably going to call again and try to get the girls out and with her, or my grandparents who want them to stay there. My concern is telling the girls I would be devastated if I was 16, and someone told me my dad tried to have sex with my sister, so now I have to live with my grandparents. So what do I say to her? Do I break her heart? Response to OP. Yes. You need to break her heart so that she will not be groomed into a sexual relationship with him. Then you can encourage her to get therapy. Don't forget to like and subscribe for more stories like this. Another response. Do I break her heart? You will never be the one to break her heart in this situation. It's your mom and stepdad who are breaking her heart. You're just the one who has to tell her. None of this is your fault. You are not responsible for the trauma inflicted on anybody here. Much easier said than felt, I know, but I can't articulate how strongly I believe this. Their trauma will involve you, but it will never be because of you. You're a good sister. A really, really amazing sister. Update. My aunt did what she said she was going to do. She barged in with 3 other people, one of them a social worker friend of hers, who was off duty, and my uncle. None of them were allowed at the house, so as soon as Scott found out they were there, he called the police. Before the police even showed up, I told my 16-year-old sister and the 14-year-olds what happened. The 16-year-old got angry at her dad. She was walking around the house ranting at her dad and crying. Eventually she decided to come, with my aunt and I, and then we would figure out where she could go from then on. However, the two 14-year-olds did not believe me. They actually started laughing. Then they got angry and told me I was trying to destroy our family and how could you make up a sick lie. It got to the point where they threw me and my 16-year sister's stuff out the window. By that time the cops came and told my aunt, uncle, and the social worker they had to leave the property. The social worker friend let the cops know everything that's been going on. The cops didn't care. They just cared about the noise and the trespassers. So I, my 16-year-old sister, my aunt and uncle and their friend left. Very soon after my grandparents came and got the other 3 girls, after the 14-year-olds called them and came to their senses. I found out my grandma that one of the 14-year-olds confronted her dad, and he didn't deny anything. In fact, he called me a whore and said I should have had any problems doing what he asked. That's when they packed a bag and called my grandparents. My grandparents explained everything separately to the little one. She told my grandpa she prefers him to our dad because grandpa doesn't yell at her. As much as that pained me, I hope it's enough to keep the girls at my grandparents for good. My 16-year-old sister is going to emancipate herself and stay with either our grandparents or our aunt. CPS was called, but it was my grandparents this time. I have multiple screenshots on me and my aunt's phone of my mother incriminating herself, so we will be able to file charges and hopefully get Scott on the SO registry. That way the girls can stay at their grandparents permanently. Thank you all for the support. I appreciate each and every one of your comments. And to the survivors who shared their stories, you are all so strong. Thank you. OP on why Aunt wasn't allowed over. Because they hate Scott and know he's a creep. Many years ago, when I was about 13, at my young sister's gender reveal party, my cousin, my uncle's daughter, who is trans, decided at university that she was female and came back as female. We all accepted and loved her the same except Scott, who got drunk and lifted her skirt and said, "Do you still have your boy parts?" That's when my uncle beat the shit out of him and knocked over a couple of tables. From then on, half of my family wasn't allowed back at the house per a trespassing order. They knew then that he was an absolute perv. But I, as a young child, didn't fully comprehend it. Good comment. The cops didn't care. Why is this always their fucking default setting? Comment. Scott is a piece of crap and mom as well, for allowing and enabling such behavior. Hopefully she won't have more kids because each kid is a victim to this crap situation. Tifu. By having sex on my parents' bedroom. My wife, 33F, and I, 30M, are visiting my childhood home. We are living with our parents. Last night they went out to a party and left us in charge. My wife and I were drinking a lot. We were having some relationship issues too. It led us to argue for days. Even before coming to our hometown we argued. Yesterday the thing same happened. Except we were drunk and were a little too honest. She told me how she never feels attractive because I ignore her. I ignored her because the last time I tried to do something about our intimacy issues, she ignored me. We both messed up the communication part in our life. So we were ranting and confessed to each other that we still love the other and wish there was something to spice up our marriage because lately, it has been stale. One thing led to another. We started kissing on the couch. We were vigorous. We haven't had sex in 6 months, so all pent-up emotions and horniness was coming out. Mixing alcohol creates a recipe for disaster. We made this into a challenge. We decided that we would have sex in every room in the house. My parents went to a party with their old friend. I was sure they would not come home before 1 a.m., and it was still early. We were going to it. First, it was my childhood bedroom. Then we moved to the guest room, the kitchen, and so on. Lastly, we went to our parents' bedroom. I was a little drunk, but still cautious that we were doing it in our parents' bed. Somehow this made both of us even hornier, and we were going at it roughly. The bed frame was hitting the wall, but we did not care. Suddenly I heard a cracking noise. The bed frame was cracked. I got up and panicked. My wife was telling me to calm down because they wouldn't notice. I was still unsure. My parents came home late at night. We cleaned their room just the way it was to avoid suspicion. Later in the morning, my dad complained the bed was broken. He was sleeping, and suddenly the bed broke when he was turning. My dad has a huge body, so I can see the bed must have broken due to his body pressure. I haven't told my parents yet. They are still wondering how this bed can break so easily. I lied to my dad and told him the bed frame was very old. It must have become weak over time. He bought it. I do feel guilty because he probably doesn't have enough money now to get a new bed because he fixed his car and AC just recently. Update. Hello guys, long time no see. I just wanted to say thanks to all of those who commented on my previous post. I know some people have laughed, I know why. It is a laughing matter no matter how bizarre it is. Also, I did take your advice and insisted that I buy him a bed. My dad is someone who doesn't take favors. I still insisted because it really broke my heart to see that he will be sleeping on the floor for God knows how long. So, my dad and I went to the shop to buy a bed, but this time with a metal frame. My wife and I ruined their mattress too, so I asked if we could replace that. My dad says he is taking the mattress to get it cleaned. I didn't tell my dad the bed broke because of me and my wife's raunchy escapade. My wife also paid for a portion of the bed too. She still laughs about it, and it will be a secret between us. I don't know how my dad would react if he ever found out. Well, here is some big news for us. After coming home from visiting my family, we learned that we were pregnant. It was a shock to both of us. I mean, it is weird that our first child will be conceived on their grandparents' bed. We took home the pregnancy because my wife had a gut feeling about being pregnant, but it could be a false alarm. Maybe we need to see a doctor to find out if this is true or not. Comment. As a parent, please God don't have sex on my bed. Have sex anywhere else, horny young person. Have sex on the couch, in the shower, in the car, in your own bunk bed. But not on my bed. It's just, I can't explain it. It's just bad juju. We have come to the end of our story. Don't forget to like and subscribe for more stories like this. Tell us what you think about this story in the comments.